Yes, ma'am, it's in here. No, I'm leaving, but I'm concerned because y'all probably have a hard time getting in, didn't you?
Yes.
I gotta figure out how we're gonna get people in.
Always, this is there. Subject night. Body of the body.
I think you showed us that one time in class.
That was my question.
Sure thing. All right, see you tomorrow.
Bye, Miss Hope. Mr. Benjamin, are we in a good place to get started? Okay.
We're on the RCPS YouTube channel, Rockdale County Public Schools.
So good afternoon, you all. Thank you for being here. We have Brenda Bob with the Georgia Student Finance Commission who's going to present to us on navigating student loan forgiveness. So I think a lot of our viewers are online or waiting for the recording, but let's give her a warm welcome and I'll get out of here.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks for all being here. I am from the Georgia Student Finance Commission. So this is for the people online to be able to hear me better. Does that work?
Yes.
Right, okay. So my name is Brenda Vaughn with the Georgia Student Finance Commission. We are GA Futures, that's our website. So we are responsible for the HOPE program. Most people in the school system in the high school will know who we are. And so we are everything social. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, we have Instagram Lives. Follow us, tag us, anything you need from us. That's where we put most of our updated information out. We are going to be talking about navigating the student loan forgiveness process. And what we're going to be talking about, and I added this since the last time I presented because I felt like not many people other than the high school know who we are. So the Georgia Student Finance Commission versus federal student aid, what the difference is in who we are. We're going to talk about the Teach Grant, the Teach Loan Forgiveness, PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness, and the Student Debt Relief Plan that's currently been announced. It started with the application process, and that's kind of where it stopped. But we'll talk about that, and I'll give you all the updates on that as well. So the Georgia Student Finance Commission versus federal student aid. The Georgia Student Finance Commission, we are a Georgia state agency. We are an agency in the state of Georgia. Our website is gafutures.org. We run the HOPE program. We run student loan access, the student access loan. We run the McDonald Teacher Scholarship. We run everything within the state, all of the financial aid, the state aid program. That's what we do. And my job is to go out to the high schools to help seniors go through the financial aid process to go to college, knowing everything there is to need to know about the HOPE program and FAFSA, getting federal aid. So that's my role, okay? The federal government, the federal student aid is studentaid.gov, and they are responsible for the Teach Grant, the Teacher Loan Forgiveness, the PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness, and the Debt Relief. That's all federal programs. So just to be clear, I'm here just delivering the message from the federal student aid, okay? We don't run any of these programs that we're about to talk about, but I have the experience and the information, and they wanted me to come and present to you all, and that's why I'm here, if that makes sense, okay? So the TEACH grant is the Teacher Education Assistant for College and Higher Education, and it is for undergrad and grad. So if you already have your undergrad and you want to go to grad school, you can looking at getting the TEACH grant. You have to be qualified, you have to be enrolled in a school that participates in the TEACH grant, again, undergrad or grad, enrolled in an eligible program, and that's determined by the post-secondary institution in which you are enrolled in. You do have to have academic achievements to be able to receive that grant and maintain a certain GPA, and all of that information is at this link. Okay, so you can look at all those different qualifications. Again, most of those are going to be different for each institution. The post-secondary institutions, again, so yes. Yes. I can go back to the link. There you go. Am I anyway? I'm in all these pictures. But if you go to studentaid.gov and search any TEACH grant, you'll go right to this. Okay. And again, it's per post-secondary institution, and I just Googled TEACH grant in Georgia, and these institutions came up that had the TEACH grant. There are probably more, I'm sure there are more, so if there's an institution that you're interested in, I would contact their financial aid office to ask them if they are part of the TEACH program. Okay? The award amounts, the amount of money that you would get would be based on enrollment and the institution and what money, I guess, they have available. So it just depends on your enrollment status, how many classes you're taking to know how much money you would be receiving. So there's no set amount, okay? When you finish your undergrad or your grad degree, you have two options with the TEACH grant. You can either serve to pay that off, or you can repay it, okay? So if you're going to serve, you have to serve at as a highly qualified school teacher. We'll talk about that in a minute, what they classify that as. You will have to work full-time for 4 years within an 8-year period of graduating, okay? It can be an elementary school, secondary school, but it has to serve low-income students. And more than half of the classes that you teach has to be in the high-need field. And we'll talk about the different schools, what makes them serve low-income students, and what classifies as a high-need field. So if you're going to serve the 4 years within the 8-year period, that will take care of your TEACH grant that you used to get your grad or your undergrad degree. Or you repay. If you repay, it's going to be considered an unsubsidized loan, which means it's going to be accruing interest the minute you got the grant. Okay? Yes?
Do those 4 years need to be consecutive?
I'll tell you in just a second. All right. So highly qualified public school teacher means that you have to have at least a bachelor's degree, you have to obtain that full-time state certification, or hold a license, and it cannot be waived on an emergency, temporary, or provisional basis. Y'all probably understand what all of that means more than I do, but you have to have that license or that certification. So what school is qualified to be able to be a place for you to serve, to not be able to have to pay the grant back? There is a directory on federal student aid, and you can actually just Google or search the school system or the school that you taught in to see if it's on the list. And I went ahead and searched Rockdale County, because I was coming here, and Rockdale County High School is on here, as well as the Youth Detention Center. But those are the only 2 schools in the county that are on this list. So I thought that was interesting. I was really surprised. I really thought all the high schools would have been, but those are the only 2 that are on this list, okay? Any school that's part of the Indian reservation or serving the Indian population is going to be on the directory as well. And so they have their own Bureau of Indian Education, and you can actually look at that as well if that's of any interest to you. Can anybody guess where the closest Indian school system is that's on the list? No, closer. Cherokee, North Carolina. Yeah, Cherokee. There is one or two way down South Florida, but there really aren't many throughout the state when I looked at it, so that was kind of interesting. To be on the list, the school has to be a Title I school for elementary and secondary education, part of that act. And again, 30% of their total population has to be children who qualify for those services. And what those services are in that act is, I don't know. But the school has to be able to receive funds or whatever the services is from that act, the Title I school. And the school can be on that list all or some of the time you're teaching. So if you begin at Rockdale County High School this year, and then it's off the list for the next 3 years, you were in it, it was on the list for 1 year, so then those 4 years for you would qualify. Okay, you don't have to move if a school is no longer on the list. Okay, and I looked back a couple of years, like 10 years, and I kept going back trying to see if any of the other high schools were on the list, and I didn't see that. I've only seen Rockdale County High School. So if you were teaching any further back and you want to know, you can look at that. High need fields, these are the high need fields as of now. There is a nationwide list, and that's the link to be able to get to the high need fields. Okay? And again, remember when you're in the post-secondary school, they'll let you know also which high need fields that they have for the Teach Grant. So the years of service, so these 4 years. So here's an example. If you complete your bachelor's degree program and then you have to teach the 4 years of your obligation. Oh, so if you have your bachelor's and then you get your master's right after each other, you don't stop, you go right into your master's, you have 4 years, and it will take care of both needs. Okay, you don't have to do 8 years. So you have you've got your undergrad with a Teach Grant, you've got your grad with a Teach Grant, you have only 4 years to do, you don't have 8 years. Make sense? Okay. And so maybe you complete your bachelor's, you start working, you work for a year, and then you decide, you know what, I'm going to go back and get my master's degree. And so when you graduate from your master's degree, you have to teach 4 years, which will then qualify for 3 of the years for your undergrad. Okay, so it takes care of both the undergrad and the grad with the 4 years after you graduate from your master's degree. Okay, again, you're not having to do 8 years. Okay. You know, I'm not sure that this ever says that it's consecutive or not on these examples. I don't know that it ever says that it's consecutive. I don't believe it has to be consecutive because you can actually stop, as in this example, stop working, go back to get your degree, and then come back, so it wouldn't be consecutive at that point. Okay? So next example, if you get your bachelor's, you teach for 2 years, you decide you want to go back to school, you complete your request and receive a suspension for your 8-year period, meaning it's not going to keep counting while you're in school, and then you graduate and then you teach for 4 years, and again, 2 of those years will take care of your bachelor's degree, and so forth, okay? All right, documentation, so every year you want to make sure it's documented. So you have to go to your chief administrative officer, whom I'm not sure who that would, That would be at the back of the room there. She is your Chief Administrative Officer. And so she will do a certification for you that shows that you are a highly qualified teacher, that you taught at a low-income school, and that more than half of your classes were indeed high-need fields, okay? You want to make sure you're doing that every year. Number one, if that school is no longer on that list, you have documentation that one of your years of service is with a school that was on that list, okay? So you definitely want to make sure you're doing that every year, okay?
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Can you just share for the viewers at home, that is Michelle Stevens at Human Resources?
Yes, it's Michelle Stevens at Human Resources, who is your chief officer, administrative officer that you want to make sure you are certifying with. Perfect, thank you. So again, if you don't serve those 4 years or however long to repay that or serve to forgive that, you will have to repay it. And again, it would be an unsubsidized loan, meaning that it will accrue interest from the point of when you borrow it, okay? All right, so that's the Teach Grant. So you had to have been in that program when you went to school to be able to be a part of that program. Teacher loan, yes?
Sorry, just one question on Teach Grant. Looking at the fee directory, 19 schools in Rockdale County are listed on there, including Salem High School, Rockdale High School, and Ridge. RCA is not listed on that list.
Well, RCA, so he was just telling me that they're all listed, but so I just did this like 2 days ago, so that's interesting. I don't know, maybe I didn't put more schools?
I just looked at the location, I put Rockdale instead of the name Rockdale.
Oh, okay. So that's, okay, good. Well, that's good to know. So all the schools are on the list.
Except for RCA.
Except for RCA. RCA is not considered a high school. It doesn't have, so even with GA Futures, it's a career academy. So all of the students that come here come from a high school, from a home school, correct?
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so they are not enrolled at RCA, they're not, RCA is not, they're not going to graduate from RCA, they're graduating from Heritage or Rockdale or Salem. So that's the high schools. So RCA would not be included.
So for the teachers that are at RCA, that's just not an option?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Again, I work for the state, that would be a very good question for, I would call the servicer. So when you borrow any of these things, you have the lender, and the lender is the federal government. Then you have a servicer. So when you start in borrowing money, or when you start repaying money, you have a servicer, someone who you actually pay. They take the money, they calculate your debt and how much you paid and all those things. They help you choose repayment plans. Those are your servicers. I call them, or I might even call the post-secondary institution from where you got the Teach Grant and see if they have a suggestion, but I don't have the answer to that. But I'm glad you looked that up, thank you. Okay. Anything else on this? All right. All right, so teacher loan forgiveness. Again, Teach Grant, you had to be a part of that program for the teacher loan forgiveness. You have to be a full-time teacher, 5 complete and consecutive academic years for this one. Teach at a low-income school or an educational service agency. Meet other qualifications, and then you can get up to $17,500 in math, science, special education, and up to $5,000 in all the other fields. And there is the link to that as well. And I'm going to give this to Ms. Stokes in a PDF, so she can send that out to however you need to get that. So that's teacher loan forgiveness. And so if you still have some balance due with that, then you want to take advantage of the public service loan forgiveness. Public service loan forgiveness, to be able to get this forgiveness, you have to have 120 qualifying payments. Qualifying payments typically means it has to be in an income-based contingent payment plan. So you have to work with your servicer to know if you could be part of that plan. They check your tax returns every year to make sure, or see if you're eligible to be a part of that program. So you have that 120, that's 10 years, 120 qualifying payments. It does have to be a direct loan. Plus loans if it's consolidated, and a plus loan is if you are a parent of a student and as a parent you're borrowing money. That would be a plus loan. There's also grad plus. Employment, so you have to be full-time. You can be in a government agency, public school system, those kinds of things to be a part of the public service loan forgiveness. And your servicer, as I talked about earlier, your main point of contact for SPLF is the PHPAA and the Fed Loan Servicing. Those are the only two servicers that run the public service loan forgiveness. So if you have a student loan and you're with Mohila or something else, you're probably not a part of this program. So the minute you become a part of the program, you would be switched over, your servicer would switch to one of these two servicers. Does that make sense? You can ask me. Go ahead.
It wasn't a question, but when I consolidated my loan, Mohila was the servicer for it.
So Mohila is the servicer for your consolidated loan. Are you part of the SPLF? The PS? Okay. Okay, well, the federal website says these two are the main servicers. So I would just double check. Okay? Hopefully everyone filled out their waiver that was around, and it ended October 31st of this year. It gave a lot of benefits that you are no longer eligible for. So I really hope, we tried to get the word out, and I really hope you all took advantage of that waiver. If it comes back again or not, I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
That's only if you had that 10 years of qualifying, right?
The waiver?
Just PSLF period.
The PSLF, normal time of year, yes, you have to have 120 payments. There was a time before October 31st, if you filled out this waiver, it actually gave you 120 payments. So for example, if you were an income contingent and then you weren't, they were actually going to let those count as qualifying payments. If you were not an agency, government agency, and now were, I think that was waived. There was a lot of different things that they were doing to make it more people were getting it that weren't supposed to, or weren't going to get it the normal way, I guess. Okay. All right. So even if after PSLF, if you still have debt, right now we are in the midst of our student loan debt relief plan. So Biden, I think it was March maybe, said, hey, we're going to forgive student debt regardless of where you worked, how much time you worked, or what program you were repaying your loans in. But right now it's a standstill. So they opened it in October. You could start filling out that application, and it was October because students who were filling out their FAFSA were now filling out debt relief applications because it was right there on the website, start here. So, but they stopped that now. You cannot do the application at this point because it's in legal court system. People trying to decide whether or not it could actually happen. I have no idea what will become of any of that. But so right now they're not taking applications. So what they've done, if you've already done the application, you've done all you can. You've done everything you need to do. Unless something changes. As of right now, doing that application is just sitting there waiting. Yeah. And so which loan, if you have a William D. Ford or direct loan, the old Fell loans are applicable. Any Perkins loans, if it's held by the Department of Ed, if it's held by an institution, that's not going to qualify. Even your defaulted loans would be able to be forgiven as well. And basically, if you had a loan balance as of June 30th, 2022, so if you have children that are in college right now and they had a loan balance, they also would qualify. So it's not just people in repayment or after graduation. If students are currently in school and they have a loan balance, they can also complete this application when and if that comes available again. The best way to know what your loan balance is going to your federal student aid and logging in with your FSA ID to see your loan debt balance there. And so if you are eligible for the $20,000 debt relief, it will be determined based on if you were getting Pell when you were in school. And if you don't remember, because I don't remember what I got in school, you can always go and log into your federal student aid account using your FSA ID, and it will tell you if you have received any Pell money. $10,000 for those who did not receive Pell, and it's based on the income, if you're able to get this forgiveness. So as an individual, you could only be up to $125,000 as a household.
There's a guy in a green shirt on the left side right
And
now.
that will be based either on your 2020 or your 2021 tax returns. And that form was pretty simple to complete. I mean, watch me, I think I have a slide that says exactly what was on it. If you voluntarily made payments while we have the pause, you will actually get repaid that money. That's not true for public service loan forgiveness. If you paid on
Repeat
it,
that.
you
went
paid
out.
on it, and they only look at what debt's left. This, they actually reimburse you, which I think is pretty awesome. So if you made payments, you'll be able to get that back.
Sydney, he
People
said
ask
wait
me
till
all
he
the
picks his
time,
head back
does it
up
affect
because
your
the way he
tax
just had
returns?
was covering
Is
it.
it looked as income? From the federal government, it does not. State would be different. I don't think the state of Georgia will, but I don't know that for 100%. But federal would not consider that as income. The online application, again, was very easy. Name, social, birth date, so tax return, and then you selected if you wanted them to look at your 2020 or 2021 tax return. So it was really easy. Hopefully that'll come back, and you'll be able to do that as well. Just be aware not to get scammed by anybody, because once this happened, people started to take advantage of the opportunity of people wanting to get those applications and giving them all their information that you need to make sure I've got this debt forgiven. Just be really careful. They're not going to come to you saying, hey, don't you want this debt forgiven? You're going to have to go to them. So if anybody's coming to you, make sure you're being very careful of what information you're sending to them. Okay? But you do want to make sure you have created your FSA ID to log into your account to see what loan debt you have, and make sure your updated information is there, your contact information, and report those scammers to the Federal Trade Commission. And y'all, when you hear these things, make sure they're true, number one, because I know that there's things that come up all the time. But you know, I work with parents, and they're logging into their FSA ID for their student, and I see $20,000 of debt, and I see defaulted. And I said, well, did you fill out the application? Well, no, I was going to get to that. Do it. If y'all don't do it, I mean, think of what's just happened. They've stopped everything, you know. Even the public service loan forgiveness, that October 31st date, do it. I've seen teachers said, you know what, I just didn't get to it. Get to it. It's so important, okay? So important. Loan updates. So right now, we're still in a pause. You do not have to pay on your student loan debt, still from the COVID Act. They've extended it. It was supposed to be done December 31st this year. They have extended it. So what they're doing is they want to start making payments, start back again 60 days after the federal government is able to implement the debt relief program. So while it's in the court system, they're not asking for payment, okay? Once it gets out of court and they're able to implement it, 60 days after that, that's when repayment's gonna start. Or if all of the litigations have resolved, meaning it didn't go into the favor of student loan debt forgiveness, and they says, no, you can't do it, now it's time to move on, 60 days from whatever decision, then that's when student loan repayment is going to begin again, okay? Or, if there's still no resolution by June 30th, 2023, then it's gonna resume 60 days from June 20th. And when I calculated that, that's actually August 29th, 2023. Okay, so it could start sooner, but August 29th, 2023 could be the begin of repayment again. Okay, so again, no one's accruing any interest at this point, no one's going to default on anything. All of it is just paused at this point. And so the pause includes suspension of loan payment, 0 interest rate, they're not collecting on the defaulted loans. If you want a good strategy, if you want to put money aside, whatever your loan payment was, put it aside in a bank account somewhere. I wouldn't say pay it off, because if you paid it off, then you're putting money into something that public service loan forgiveness is not going to give you money back. The debt relief maybe would. Who knows how long you ever get back money from anybody. So I would put it in an account, leave it there, keep putting my loan payment in there, and once student loan repayment starts, make one lump sum payment and make it to the principal amount. And that will help you tremendously in the long run of paying your student loan debt off. Does that make sense? Okay. If you need any assistance, first place you should call is your servicer. Again, that's the person that you're paying, they're helping you with repayment plan options, those kinds of things. They will be the one you would contact first. If that's not getting anywhere, to find out who your servicer is, you log into Federal Student Aid with your FSA ID, and it will list who your servicer is there. If you need more assistance than that, you can go to Federal Student Aid, studentaid.gov for some help, and you can actually submit complaints, share positive feedback, and see what case, if you have a case managing that. So if you need other assistance, that's where you'll go for that. And then they also have an ombudsman department, and that's a person who is supposed to be neutral to work as a mediator between you and your servicer or your lender. So you also have that available to you as well. So if you feel like you are getting misinformation from your servicer, not getting what they promised, anything like that, there are channels in which you can get some assistance. And then, of course, finally, the Consumer Federal Protection Bureau, the CFPB, can always help as well to resolve any issues that they have in the past with servicers. I think they've even fined them and stuff for information that they have or have not been giving to the lender, to the borrower, and those kinds of things. So the CFPB is there to help you not only with student loan debt, but any kind of debt, any kind of problem with credit cards, anything like that, for credit reporting agencies, anything that you feel like you're being, as a consumer, treated unfairly. The CFPB is a really good place to go for some assistance. Okay? Any questions?
I have a couple.
Sure.
One, during the time like the COVID, when everything is stopped, in order to get that time counted, you had to have been making payments all along during that time.
So
If
the
you fill out
question-
the waiver.
So the question is, for public service loan forgiveness, does the time during COVID when it was paused, did you have to be making payments at that time for it to count for the 120? I don't think so, because it was paused, payments were not required, and the waiver relinquished that anyway. So especially if you filled out the waiver, you did not have to make payments during that time. And so therefore, this month, I'm not gonna make a payment because I'm in pause, it counts towards my 120
Okay,
because it's in the
yes,
pause.
okay.
Okay.
And then my other question was,
That's all right. Anybody else have a question? Okay. And I am going to give you just our representative map. There's 9 of us that work across the state for outreach, and these are all of us. There again is my friend Yvonne, my contact information. If you need me for anything, I really can't give much information and help with you specifically about your. It all depends on loan type, where you're working, all those things that I have no access to at all. But if you have any questions about general financial aid, loan repayment, or anything like that, please feel free to call me or email me, and I'll be glad to help where I can or direct you in